So, G2 versus Infinity just ended, and these games were not that great, especially from Infinity Esports. I I thought that Renyu looked pretty good. All right, this guy he's performing well on that squad. It's just it seems like the rest of his team aren't really up to par when it comes to just individual skill. And we'll see this kind of become a trend throughout this entire series because his micro looks incredibly good. So let's pull up the slideshow here to show the drafts. Now, for this first game, this is the game which Infinity won. Uh, and you can see that Infinity got Urgot. Now, I know a lot of the fans were flaming both teams for either not banning Urgot, like in this game, or Infinity not banning Urgot for the other games. So it's clear that Urgot is a very good pick within this current meta, and he probably should be banned. And you can let the Aatrox go, I guess. But Urgot just seems really strong. And I was discussing with another analyst about it. His name's Dr. Puppet. I follow him on Twitter or whatever. Pretty smart guy, but he had said that the difference between Urgot and Aatrox in this matchup is that it's mostly a skill matchup, and that I agree with. I think in the proper hands, if you know how to play into Urgot, then you're able to either punish him in particular ways or just not lose. Like at least that, right? So this game, and the one of the key differences is that Urgot's ult is on a lower cooldown than Aatrox's ult. So there's an ult discrepancy, or there's a window in which you can ult Aatrox if you get the chance, and then you can actually kill him. So that's kind of cool. I actually didn't know that. So in this draft, you have Tom Kench and Kaisa getting grabbed by G2 Esports, and they probably thought they won the draft here, and I agree that they did. It looks really good. They banned Nocturne as well too, and that's got to be a sign to say that they respect Solid Snake's Nocturne. And so they end up banning that, wasting spending a first round draft ban on it. And then of course you have the Poppy for the jungler for Solid Snake. And that's pretty important to see. Or wait, no, it goes top lane. Sorry. And you have Gragas as AP Gragas, because it looks like they don't have enough damage, so they end up running Solid Snake as AP Gragas. Now, during the entire game, Infinity, it's weird because their early game, it seems like they over prioritize bot lane, and they get punished by this incredibly heavily. As what happens is at 840, they send 4 bot lane to gank, and they're able to get a kill. As Yanko shows up, though, they have to stop the play, and meanwhile, they lose so much in mid and top wave that the Poppy is still top lane, but he can't actually get that wave, because then Perks, after he's done pushing mid wave, which it then crashes into mid lane turret, and I think it's about a full wave, maybe a little bit more minions, but top wave is 2+ waves. So the Poppy gets zoned off from this wave and just ends up getting wrecked through top lane and just can't come back from this disadvantage. So Infinity, they sacrifice a ton for their solo laners, and the only thing that they get in exchange is their bot laner ends up getting ahead. And so Infinity get bot tier 1, so they snowball off of objective advantage rather than solo lane pressure, because their solo laners are just super far behind in terms of farm. And then later on in the game, Perks misplays, and G2 don't play well around their own areas of vision during team fights. So Perks ends up trying to flash a wall behind the enemy blue buff in that little corridor just behind the wolf camp as well too, and he tries to flash the thick wall over into river, and he's a little bit too far away, and I think he already knew this as well too, but he had to kind of do it because they weren't expecting the enemy to come back around, because there's the let's see, where's the entire play here. Oh wait, no, that's a different game. Oh wait, no, yeah, it is this game. So it's Perks at 33-25. This is when it happens. Is Perks, he has to flash and he doesn't make it over the wall, but it's because they don't have vision in that area of the jungle, because they were fighting over on the blue side or red side of the red jungle, and then they all moved down over towards the blue side of the red jungle, right, the blue buff area, and so they have no vision of anyone over there. And then so he ends up running into another person as they're coming down from that bush, and so it surprises him and he just gets destroyed by the Urgot. And he has to flash preemptively because Poppy is there as well too. So it super sucks for him. He wasn't near the wall at all, but he kind of had to flash in that instance anyways. Maybe not. Maybe he could have made it over to the wall, but then he just would have gotten stunned and then killed anyways. So I'm not sure how the play would have went, but I think it was still excusable that he flashed. So I don't think it's as big of a mistake as the broadcast had pointed out. I think it's more of a mistake on team vision than anything. So anyways, so Infinity, they didn't understand their team composition mid-game because they often tried to burst instead of just doing longer drawn-out team fights when Renyu could AA, and they end up realizing this later on, and then that's actually when they win the game, is near the Elder Dragon fight as well too. And so all in all, G2, they end up just not really being able to handle this scaled Tristana. And although What Did played fantastic this entire game by saving Perks over and over again, and then he also had that sick ult interaction to save Perks from the Urgot ult, which I guess you can do. I didn't know that was a thing, but you end up using your ult as Tahm Kench, and then your person, whoever's getting targeted by Urgot, jumps into the Tahm Kench ult, and that just completely removes Urgot ult, which is pretty sick, and it doesn't put your ult on cooldown. I don't I don't know why. I think that's a bug, but yeah, I thought that was pretty interesting. That's really it for this game. Nothing else to that stands out. So the second game, the draft phase, as you can see, Urgot is picked by G2, even though they don't have the first pick, which is really weird. So Infinity opt to get the Aatrox pick, even though the problem with the first game wasn't the Aatrox pick itself. It was the fact that they ended up putting Urgot mid and then Poppy top, right? And so, and as I said before, it was the whole wave thing, in that Infinity ended up focusing bot side, and they just didn't allow their top laner to get any farm at all. So, and he lost like 2.5 waves. So of course he's going to be super massively down. That's like an entire kill. So they opt to get the Aatrox, I guess, and then G2 just wreck with Urgot. Wonder played incredibly well this game, as he would rotate whenever G2 were going to try and make a play, along with just him keeping ahead in farm throughout this entire matchup. And G2 focus bot side, and they're able to shut down the Kog'Maw early on, preventing Kog'Maw from scaling. And this is where I see the draft, and I wonder if maybe they should have just chosen the Varus. And I keep harping on this whole entire Varus pick, but I think it's a really good pick, and I'm not sure why teams aren't picking it into Kai'Sa. It just has so much lane bully potential. So it's really strange, especially when you have a pick like Qingjiao. You could just try and take over the early game as well with him picking 2. But also you have the Camille, which can kind of sector off the AD carry, and he's very vulnerable, which is also another weird reason of why you would pick the Kog'Maw, right? Because Camille is up. So yeah, that game, it was pretty kind of one-sided. G2 just stomped all over, so nothing particularly crazy in this game. With Perks being able to kind of nullify the LeBlanc as well too, it was just not a very great game for Infinity Esports. They got stomped all the way around. So the third game, G2 win this one as well too, and they end up getting the Urgot. You can see a pattern in this, and that maybe you should drop one of the bans of either. No, it's most likely that you should drop the Olaf ban, right? That because you don't want to face the eccentric pick of Heimerdinger, and you definitely don't want to face Perks' Akali. So it would make sense to just drop the Olaf. But instead they don't, and they think that they can take this skill matchup of Aatrox versus Urgot, and G2 don't give a shit that Urgot isn't, or that Aatrox wasn't banned. So they end up picking Urgot, and they get Kai'Sa once again. And I don't really have a problem with the rest of Infinity's draft. Seems pretty regular to me. But Wonder does well in the top lane. He gets his own advantage during this entire game, and he's just able to take tier 1 early. And then meanwhile, Solid Snake is focusing mid lane, and he gets 2 kills for that lane early on, and he kind of snowballs the Cassiopeia, and Perks is held down this entire game. Like, he ends up being like 0-3 during the early game. But Wonder's advantage is just so large that during team fights, Infinity can't really fight G2 at all. And Jankos also provides like this really good source of damage that since Perks is missing damage, he's able to do damage on the Talia pick. So it ends up just working out really well for G2, and I really like their comp. I think Jankos on Talia is actually quite good. But yeah, that game was kind of a blowout as well. So for the last game, what happens is Infinity end up getting Urgot. And then Perks ends up getting the LeBlanc as well. Now, as you can see, what happens is Infinity end up dropping the Olaf ban like I said they should do. And then they end up still getting Urgot anyways because G2 don't ban Urgot. Instead, they ban the Gragas for some reason because they think it's more of a problem, and maybe with AP Gragas they just didn't want to deal with it again, especially since they wanted to ban the Tahm Kench as well too, since you can't, if you can't save someone from the Gragas ult, then they would just rather ban the Tahm Kench away because they're on red side. So that's probably the whole reason why they banned it. And then there is the Taric pick. Now, we'll get into the Taric pick later because at the outset, I don't think it's that bad of a pick. I think it's actually pretty good in this team composition. But it's all about execution. As many coaches would say when they try and defend their own fucking drafts. So, get into game specifics. Kotopako gets destroyed mid. And Hjarnan doesn't really get a big advantage bot side as Solid Snake is able to farm up and 1v1 Jankos in the jungle. And Jankos never really got his bot lane rolling with an advantage. So Infinity completely out macro G2 with a good play with the Rift Herald to knock down mid tier 1 and tier 2, along with killing Perks as he missteps and he just steps too far forward. And then Infinity, they end up controlling Drake this game, which stops G2 from having a better option of scaling and staving off late game team fights due to like the comp discrepancy. And so Infinity, they end up rolling around as like this death squad, just not allowing G2 to have their comp function in the only way possible, which is to be able to pick them off. So as long as you just roll as a 5-man squad, usually that's not going to happen. And G2 can't really do anything against it because Infinity is just so much stronger at this point. So Infinity went too hard when they just needed to play this game slow after they got Baron and Inhibs. And then during a Baron fight, what happens is, and this is how G2 get back into the game, is during a Baron fight, Arc just looked really bad on Taric because he ends up ulting early while they're taking Baron, and right after they take Baron, the ult then procs and lands, but it's only Wadid that's there trying to zone them and keep them in the pit. And so they end up all just dying and G2 get back in the game. So this entire draft, like I don't have a problem with it if you take off the nameplates, but when you put them on and you see that this Arc guy can't function properly on the pick, then it comes down to just this entire execution and that they're not able to execute that pick very well, or Arc isn't really. It just relies on him. So while I would say that Infinity looked somewhat weak when it came to later on in their decision making, G2 themselves just looked really weak this entire game. Besides Wonder, fantastic. Wadid, even fantastic. But there were the slip-ups from Perks as well as Jankos and Hjarnan. And so I just don't think this team looks incredibly good going into the group stage. I don't know. Maybe they're able to scrim it out and they'll probably be able to get a lot of good scrims just because of the pedigree of the organization, and also their players themselves too. Maybe uh, enemy Korean teams will want to scrim against them to get solo lane experience and everything like that. But so far, it only looks like Wonder and Wadid are the outstanding members of this team. So it's going to be a rough group stage for G2. But yeah, that's my recap of these games. I enjoyed them. I thought they were pretty entertaining, but I was just kind of disappointed at the level of G2. And I hope they can shape up so that the West at least has some kind of a chance to make it out of groups besides Fnatic, because it's looking pretty grim for North America. So we're not going to do anything. So we're all banking on Europe right now. We're all friends with Europe right now, as the West usually is when it gets out of groups. So that's it for my reviews. I'll be doing these reviews for group stage as well too, and hopefully I get some more things rolling that I want to do in terms of reviewing these games and also just releasing more content. So look out for that, and I will see you next time. Peace.